6:30, I'll call the meeting to order. First item is the additions or deletions. Approval of the minutes. Or
Make a motion to review the minutes from April 3rd.
a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes for April 3rd?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pay orders, we have pay orders in the amount of $40,736.97. Motion to discuss.
I'll make a motion to discuss the pay orders of April 18th, 2023.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions, concerns?
Just Max Steel, $42, but not a huge amount. I just wanted to know why we still got invoices coming from them.
I'd have to find out from Steve.
I mean, when did they go out?
Oh, he got it the last day.
April,
Charlie did it.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Went up and got it, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I was just like, thought they were out of business. Okay.
Only 17 days ago.
Well, net 15 probably.
Any other questions? No? All those in favor of approval of the minutes, or the pay orders, I mean?
Yes, aye.
Aye. Road Commissioners report. You're up, Phil.
as you probably saw, they did a bunch of work on the 14 to get it inspected. I checked pricing on some of those parts, and they were right in the ballpark on those. The 16 still has to go up and be done. It's got a light on, code light, I don't know what it is. I don't think that has to have as much done to it, but I was down there this morning talking to him. It still needs to go up in between grading periods where they're not trucking quite so much. They had an issue with the backhoe, the filters filled with rust and stuff. Not quite sure what caused that, but Steve got it fixed. So it was running again, so I don't know. He was telling me this while I was gone. And that's back going. The other thing that was going on down there was, I forgot.
I think they replaced the debris blower today, did that?
Yes, they did. I was there. The owner called me and he was on the way with it. They were bringing that down. They replaced that today. That's what the other thing was. Oh, and he did finish the other sander, the one that was the small sander that was bought 2 years ago. He did fix that all up and that is running now. So he's gonna put that away for the summer duration. Other than that, I think he was down on Marks Road grading the other day and he was in West Hill today.
Yeah, I don't know if that's grading or not, but
I didn't go down and look at it. So I don't know what's wrong with it.
nothing. He just raised the road another 6 to 8 inches higher than it was.
Well, it's because it was all rutted.
But you could have graded it.
Well, he should have graded it when he did it. I'm not
Well,
sure.
he graded it while he was laying his chair pack down, but, you know. It's the hardest road in town, I swear. It's like, I still don't understand why he,
Well, he said there was ruts in it, because I asked him this morning. He said there was ruts where the actual dirt was coming through pretty near. And Charlie said the same thing. I don't know, I didn't look at it, I wasn't there. He went to West Hill Road, did the same thing, well, he did Haven Hill Road, the gentleman out there complained. But The problem is the road needs to be raised so the water can run off, not run down the wheel tracks, and that's what's happening. If you look at a lot of the roads, it's traveling right down the wheel
And
track.
that culvert at the end of the road needs to be replaced.
The one across from Frank's lower
Right in front
driveway.
of Mahal, that crosses the end of Cook
Yeah.
Drive. That's gotta be replaced.
Oh, it's
It
plugged?
doesn't work, hasn't worked in a couple of years. They tried to clear it out, and somebody said they couldn't clear it out, so they tried to put, fire hose through it here. I know Jerry was telling me a few years ago. Fire department tried to clear it out and blew water right up in the middle of the road. So that culvert's
It's plugged. That's the first I've heard about
pretty
it.
much done.
I presume-
Water runs, as soon, you get a hard rain, water runs right over the top of the road right there. Fills his wall
Well,
inside.
that'll need to be replaced then. It's the first I've heard about it being
Oh,
plugged
okay,
out.
but yeah, it's,
Would the jet vac do something with it? When we do that,
well, they use the fire hose,
which will be pressure going that way, but if it's getting up against something, then it's.
yeah.
It's
I don't
probably
know.
collapsed. It's probably an older pipe that just
It's
collapsed.
steel.
Yeah, it's collapsed.
Okay.
And then I think he's headed to Sugar Hill here in the near future. I don't know if he's gonna go do East Street before he heads up there. I know he did some down in Hartsboro 2 weeks ago. And I think he's gonna head to Sugar Hill as soon as it dries out up there. He did ask me about what the select board wanted to do with the far, I guess it's about 2 miles of Sugar Hill Road. As far as maintaining that, as grading it, cleaning the ditches. Cause if there's a gentleman that's staying up there, are they gonna have to remodel that so they can get in and out of there?
I don't,
It's overgrowth, really bad. And then the ditches are all sediment in, basically it's just like an old class 4 road, we haven't maintained it at all, you know, material wise.
it's not Sugar Hill Road then.
Wallingford Pond, excuse me. I'm sorry, it
I
was
was gonna say,
Wallingford Pond.
'cause Sugar Hill goes up and
Yeah, no,
over.
Wallingford Pond, it's the last 2 miles of Wallingford Pond from actually the Beagle Club back down to what they call Olympic Village where everybody has their camps. I don't know what,
So like past the turnoff?
yep. Past,
Pretty much to the end of the
well,
road.
Kevin's camp, that's, I can't think of.
But
Where they cross from Kevin's camp, that used to be the town turnaround, and then,
I think we determined one time when I was on the board that the town was responsible for the road as far as the upper parking lot.
Yeah, the
And
Beagle.
not beyond that, and also that, and that was back when we used to get funds from the government to help maintain that road, but once we stopped getting funds from that, we stopped maintaining the road, and the road just turned into what it is now.
yeah. That was that from the big parking lot to the Wallingford Pond turn.
The big parking lot is from the Wallingford, from Sugar Hill Road to the big parking lot was Town Road. I think it's on the map. It showed, road crew, what's his name?
Steve?
No.
Charlie.
Charlie went and measured it one time, I remember when I was on the select board, and he said that when, by looking at the maps, measuring it out, that the Wallingford, our portion of the road we're responsible for is to the main parking lot. But like I said, that was back maintaining it when we
Yeah, well,
get money for it, I don't know whatever.
That's only about 100 yards short of the actual Wallingford Pond.
Wallingford Pond Road, that's probably, yeah, maybe, so, that's about right.
I
So-
just, you know,
So the forestry department doesn't give anything to us anymore?
I guess not. I've never, not since I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Been a long time.
Yeah. And it's gonna be, if we have to maintain that, if it's moving in there full time, we're gonna have to do some work, quite a bit of work on it. Culverts are bad. Ditches are bad, graveling. I was just trying to give the board a heads up, so they see this, if, you know, this gentleman moves up there full time, I'm sure he's gonna want that maintained a little more.
Is it a class 4?
No,
Oh, 3.
that's class 3.
Because of the forest road? Because
Yeah,
it's-
well, that's
'cause
why I
it's-
think we've always had to keep it plowed after the storms, because it's class 3.
We hadn't, for years, we haven't plowed that, we haven't plowed beyond Frederick's camp.
Oh, I know.
And I remember the
What?
time that Steve spent almost a week with a grader and a bucket loader trying to open it up so we could just get to the parking lot. So we went to the parking lot.
We've had to do-
That time, after the storm, yeah.
We've had to do it this year, what, 3 times? 3 or 4 times we've opened that up. While they're logging up there now, for one. We've been up in there at least 3 times to open up Sugar Hill Road and that other one that's Senecal Way. That's that short one, that's off the right going up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna have to keep that open.
Yeah, yeah. And it's gonna take some time up there working on it, if that's gonna be something they're gonna have to plow with the tandem. You know, a normal winter. They're gonna have to start thinking about that this summer. So. I guess we didn't get any grants, you said. Now, does that include, or is the paving grant for the bridge?
Oh, no, that
We
was
had-
just, we applied for
For the-
3 Better Roads grant last December for upsizing culverts on Church, Bear Mountain, and Sugar Hill.
Yeah.
And they were all turned down. There were not enough connection to significant waterways. Your rejection letters in there.
Oh, I
somewhere.
saw it. Yeah, okay. They ran out of money.
I think they had more applications than they
The
had.
one on Church Street has to be replaced this year. It's gonna collapse. It's already started. But that's just a small one. And then, I guess there's some trees that came down while I was gone. On one on Sugar Hill, one on Bear Mountain. I guess they got them out of the road. I don't know who's gonna clean them up totally. But I don't know if that's up. I guess it's a pretty good sized tree. But what Steve said, took them 3 hours to cut it out, just to get it off the road.
Good one.
So, but other than that, I talked to Steve, there's no other major issues at all down at the garage. I know that he
When
talked,
are they gonna get going on Maple Street?
Yeah,
oh, we can start that next week.
okay.
I think you need to get a little aggressive with Steve because he keeps just giving us this response that it's not his.
Well, we'll get down there next week and start that project. I'll have my machine home then, and we can do that.
Did you sign that, your end of that road mate, Phil Baker and Sons?
We haven't seen it, or did I overlook it? Run right through it. I'll look.
Okay, I mailed it to you.
Oh, I haven't gone through that yet. I haven't gone through any mail yet.
Okay.
It's been one of them weeks.
Mail, it's regular mail, not email.
No, I know, I
Okay.
saw the road commissioner things.
Okay, good.
But yes, that will get started next week, so we can be done with that. 'Cause that's just a matter of closing that little Y off.
So that's coming due the end of this month, is it, Sandy, or?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good, definitely like to get it done before May. I was looking at, wonder if Sugar Hill is, if that, we could do that with, grants and aid money.
I don't know.
Or is it Church Street? Church Street. That's the one you said needs upside.
Church Street needs to be replaced, it's collapsing. It's one over by Lee Perry's old house.
All right. Maybe we can, we have 27,000 in, grants and aid money we need to spend.
I wonder if that can go to Sugar Hill and do that up in there too.
Well, if it's on one of these segments,
All right, we'll have to have Charlie dig that up.
yeah.
Other than that, I don't have too much else. They're gonna start hauling a little sand back in when it's, as long as it's dry, when they get free time on rainy days.
I'm done. What was his last name?
Sweeney.
Sweener.
Sweeney,
Yeah,
Sweeney,
Schweener or whatever,
Yeah.
he's on Haven Hill, yeah.
He was in here and he was really upset about how high the road has become.
that's every year. He does that.
I know, I've talked to you about this before, but I mean, is it really necessary to keep building the road up every year?
Well, his driveway's settling. The road has to be built up or we're gonna have, it's mud. They had to go up and work on it in the middle of the winter because it was soft there. There's no basin there. The road, he builds it up 5-6 inches, it looks like a lot, but it's not. The problem is, we need to cut a ditch down his side of his lawn all the way to Route 7 and cross it over in the culverts. So the road actually runs off and drains and just doesn't travel down the road shoulder, because it just takes it back out. If you notice that before he graded it, because I was over there, that had wheel ruts right down the center of the road. What happens is you drive on it so much it pushes the center up, and when he grades it back in with some new material, it looks like he's gained a lot of elevation, but he really hasn't. But that's the problem, is his driveway hasn't had anything on it. It needs to be drained right from his driveway. I understand. I've looked at it for the last 3 years in a row. That way.
I know he was saying that the road is 2 feet higher than his driveway now. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but
A load of material in his driveway would fix that elevation problem. But we need to drain it. We need to talk to him and tell him we're gonna put a ditch down the side of that lawn, like every other side of the roads have, so the water runs off the road, drains the road, then we won't have the erosion issue in the road. But I'm sure he's not gonna be happy about that.
you know. That it?
That's all I have.
They got your mower attachment estimate.
Oh, they did give, okay,
Yeah.
yep, I saw that.
So we can put that on the agenda for next time for approval or not.
Okay.
Special projects, catch basin clearing. There's $2,000 in the special projects line of the highway budget. Do we want to speak with A1 about
Yep.
clearing?
Yep, I'll let Nick know. We're gonna do the same, I think it's 4 or 5 we do, 2 here on 140. And there's one, I think, down on the lower end by the fire station. Is that
I
what it
think they
was?
have a map of them. I think
Yeah.
it's more than 4 or 5. I think it's like 6 or 7.
Is it
Yeah.
that? I know there's a bunch they pump out.
Talking about catch basins, we met with Tim Hart, who's head of maintenance for the school district now,
Yep,
and he agreed that all the catch basins on the school property should be the responsibility of the school district, not us. It's the same for the, I want to call it a leach field, but that's not what they called it.
yeah, silt separation.
Yeah, whatever, but he agreed it's their responsibility, so I think you'll feel better about that now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we just gotta keep the 2 grates over here clear and what we normally do anyway. And
yeah, they're always open.
yeah.
We said when we got around to doing that stuff, we would try to coordinate with him and so that we
The only
could,
suggestion I would have is I know they're gonna make you repipe over to the school driveway or parking lot, wherever it crosses there. And I'm not sure how far along this sidewalk project is gonna be this year, but at least before we put new sidewalks in, at least put a sleeve for a culvert under there, so you don't get that sidewalk in and a month later dig it all up to put a culvert across the road. So, you know, that, whoever's doing the work for that should have knowledge about approximately where that sleeve's gonna be. It could be just dead-ended on each side of it. But I think we ought to put something in there so we don't disturb the new sidewalk if it gets long before this project of the silt separation system.
So like you would go in and then finish the sidewalk afterwards, but just not have to tear it up after.
They won't have to tear it up. There'll be a pipe stubbed through underneath it. They'll just connect to each end of it and go. Not have to get into tearing up a brand new sidewalk.
Right, no.
Because it'll never be right. Once you put it in, it'll never be right.
Because they still have to apply for the grant too, so
Yeah,
it's,
I mean, yeah, so it's,
we don't know when they're.
So the
really gonna
sidewalk's probably gonna be finished before the, silt project.
who knows?
probably.
Who knows? Honorable mentions, we want to give thanks to Jim Regula for installing the tennis court net and fixing the Elfin gate lock. Deborah Millette for sponsoring a child for 4 weeks in the summer rec program. And the Mill River Interact Club for hosting a bake sale at the Town Hall Concert Series. Public comments.
I'm just here, Julie, and when she sent an email saying that she wasn't scheduling a BCA meeting because she wanted to meet with the select board in this meeting and recommend or talk to you about talking with your town's legal counsel, and I'm just here to be privy to hear that information, that's all.
Okay.
I think at this point Julie is
No, I'm just scheduling a meeting.
scheduling a meeting, Gary.
Oh, okay, that's what, the last thing I heard was you wanted to talk to them on the 17th about contacting, and that's the last I'd heard, so,
Oh, I changed my mind, so I'm trying for the 3rd or the 4th when you're back.
okay.
Because there's a couple people out this week.
Yep.
I know that, yeah.
No, we,
Right.
that was all kind of,
Okay.
we knew what's going on there.
Quarterly financials.
Today was tax day. So, delinquency is going to be 104,650, and that compares to last year of 126,200, so that's better result. And quarterly financials, we're doing very well. Going down income. Let's see. Just highlighting some transfer station fees, we're already at 106%. Recording fees, we're only at 46%, we should be near 75%, so we've taken a hit on that. Your miscellaneous income, most of that is ARPA money that I put in there, and then I take it out of miscellaneous expense, 5540. And then under donations, 4,000 of that is for basketball, the basketball boards. Then going down to expenses, road crew overtime, they're already over by 2,500.
Probably,
That'll probably won't have to do that anymore.
That's through the end of March.
I would say at this point, maybe we want to just say no more approved overtime.
Yeah, I agree with that. Unless
I
it's,
sent you a report, I don't know if you got it in the mail.
oh, I'm sure I did. I got a
Okay.
stack and be able to sign it over.
Under town government operation expenses, transfer station operating, we're under by 58,000 so far. We're only at 47%, so that's I don't know if we're gonna get more.
It's
We
amazing.
should be at 75%, so we're doing well there.
Yeah.
The highway, we've used up all that carry forward balance, so between the repairs that were just done on the 14 and the debris blower we're gonna buy. And the last page, I just wanted to point out under rec, the maintenance, it looks like it's over budget, but that's where I put the expense for the backboards.
Okay.
So, do you have any questions?
So they have money left over from, or is that gonna be going towards the installation?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So the balance of the debris blower will be, I mean, I think we get 5,600 from the grant, but it's 73. So, I mean, I think
17.
if we, are we taking that out of 5314, hired equipment, or I don't know where the balance of the debris blower will come from? The grant covers 5,600 of it.
Must be an overrun on the school summers and winter run. It's over on theirs.
And then if we end up going with that mower attachment, that's gonna be another 5,900, so that will have to come out of,
That's the mowing for this year.
Right, but what do we have left in that?
4650
4650 left in mowing, and that's 50.
from hired equipment.
Yeah, but it's gonna be 6 weeks probably before you see that if you get it ordered. From the time you get it ordered, so that's gonna bounce it pretty near out to when the budget starts.
So the mowing is under hired equipment.
And
we
there's
have-
46 left.
And where there's 4,600 left, so we will need the balance. The two purchases we have is the balance of the debris blower.
Yeah, so you could take that out of there.
And then we'll have the attachment. So I
Yeah.
don't know if maybe we order that a little bit later and it can carry over into the FY '24. Pay the $1,000 deposit maybe and carry it over.
Well, yeah, cause if you're already at the 17th, so if you do it, approve it at the next meeting, that's gonna put you into almost July anyways with it.
In terms of when it gets actually to
And when it
us.
lands, yeah,
Yeah.
when you have to pay the balance.
Oh, what was the thing about the grader? So it's I was confused because it looked like it's going here and then going back to Canada.
No,
It's going straight to Canada now.
yeah, it's
So
going
where is it coming from then?
Brazil.
Brazil.
Really?
That's their main plant.
Really?
It's going from
Brazil to West Virginia?
Baltimore
Baltimore, yeah.
Okay, and then Baltimore up
to
to.
Canada.
Well, they have to take this as it may be and drug test it when it lands.
Right.
And then they can ship it to Canada.
Okay.
But they asked if we wanted to use it for the summer and then ship it to Canada in the fall, but Phil doesn't want to because if we get it here, we have to give up the old one, and then if we ship it,
And then we're
without
paying
either.
trucking fees from Baltimore to here and then from here up to
Yeah,
Canada.
it's the
Bad or
issue
bad.
being is our galleon was sold pretty near the day after we signed the papers on the other one. So the minute that grader lands here, it's gonna be gone and we aren't gonna have a grader.
Right.
So we need to,
Right.
because we get into this with the 1 ton, it took 8 months to get a plow on it and a sander and the hydraulics and a box. So it goes to Canada in May and it takes 5 months. We're still gonna have it for plowing snow this winter, and we still have a grader to work with this summer, so it kind of keeps both things running, because I have no idea how long it's gonna go to Canada for.
Right.
Any other questions on the budget? Wallingford Day Subcommittee discussion.
Barbara's here.
Hey Barb.
Hi, so I'm Barb Wishley, for anybody who doesn't know me. I'm representing the Wallingford Day group, and we request that you let us be the subcommittee for the Recreation Committee. It's a 5-member board with 1-year terms. We will follow the rules of procedure, and we will warn the agenda 48 hours prior to our open meetings.
Sounds like Sandy might have talked to you already then.
Yes, it's like, okay, can you go to this meeting? I'm like, yeah, what do I need to say? So,
Do you have the 5 people that you want to have on the board for us to?
sure, if you want
review.
their names, yeah.
Okay.
So Maria French and Jen Galusha are pretty much have been in charge
Right.
since the beginning several years ago. So I'm on it. Michael Lazader, oh
Okay.
gosh, and who's there?
Is it Jane Duda?
Jane Duda
Okay.
is the 5th. And it's an open meeting and there's a group of us, but we
Right.
chose 5 board members to make it easier with making decisions.
Yeah. No, that's huge. So do we need a motion to be able to start the process of making this part of the?
I
Okay.
would say.
I'll make a motion that we roll the Wallingford Day Independent Committee into a subcommittee of the Recreation Department.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Make another motion and appoint those
Another
5
mo-
members?
I was gonna say,
Yeah, and then we do the,
we need another motion to number of members and probably the appoint those 5
Okay.
people.
I'll just keep running through. So I'll do the, I'll make a motion to make it a 5-person board. And then with a 1-year term. So any seconds?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No?
And then I make a motion to accept the Wallingford Day Subcommittee's suggestions of Barbara Bushy, Maria French, Jen Galusha, Mike Luzader, and Jane Duda. My brain works today. And second from Carolyn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No?
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Welcome to town government.
Yeah, welcome to the government.
Do you have any questions for me? I hope not. Well, I can try to answer them. And I usually go to the meetings, all of the meetings. You're good? Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Maria.
you.
Good night.
Energy Committee.
We have Ken Welch here.
I am. Question for you, Sandy. Did David get the summary? Does the board have the
I
summary?
made copies for them. They actually have the copies in front of them.
Okay, good. So, I was hoping that David would be here to join me, but it doesn't look like he is, so you'll have to bear with me. Basically, I'm here to explain what we've been doing and also ask for your direction as to which way to go, because we're kind of at a crossroads and don't know where to go. As you can see in that summary, we've been pawing through this building for many, many years, done many blower door tests on here, still have not been able to get any numbers, so the bottom line, this is a very, very leaky structure. And I'm sure that's no surprise to people who work in this building. They probably feel more outside than inside a lot of the time. So the main thing that we want to do to improve the function, if you will, of this building and to improve its stability or that's not the right word, its stature, is to provide insulation in the basement. Investigations have shown that the attic is in good shape, that the insulation that was done previous to our involvement in here is up to code. It's all done good, so really the basement is the only thing that needs to happen to provide significant improvements to the building. And I asked one of the contractors, the home performance contractors that I've worked extensively in my past life, to do an estimate of what he would propose, how he would propose to approach the insulation of the basement. And it's a particularly tricky proposition, because there's a lot of things that can't be touched down there according to the state regs. Specifically, I'm talking about the asbestos that was put on the walls for fire protection for the boiler room. Unless we remove the asbestos, we can't do anything there. And removal of asbestos gets pretty expensive. So it is an option. We didn't price it out because we felt it was really not worth it. But basically, we're taking the perimeter of the building and insulating it either with sheet goods, which is a product called Thermax, which is 2.5-inch thick poly, what is it? extruded polystyrene with a built-in fire barrier. One thing to be aware of, if you do any insulating in a public building, it has to be provided with a fire barrier to protect the foam, because of, foam is very volatile. So the two options are use Thermax, which provides a barrier in it. It's a sandwiched board. It's got insulation in it, and the exterior, or what faces the inside of the building, is a fireproof barrier. I wish we could use Thermax throughout the whole thing, but it just doesn't lend itself to that, because there's all kinds of ins and outs, and there's pipe penetrations, and it's a real mess. So there are places where spray foam is the thing to do. So wherever you do spray foam, you have to use the fire retardant after that. So those are basically the two products that we're recommending that be done for the basement. There are a number of what we call bypasses, which are basically chimneys from the basement to the outside, that are just allowing cold air to move right through this building. And that's the intent of the weatherization down there, is to stop as much extraneous air moving through the building as we can. So does anyone have any questions about the insulating aspects of the basement before I go on with the mechanical stuff?
Just something that I know in our basement, and just because we're on School Street and near the brook, we have a sprayed-in foam, and then we have the plastic sheeting on it. I'm convinced, no actual technical prowess behind it, but I'm convinced that it's also keeping in a lot of moisture. Is there something to be able to pull out to make sure that the moisture doesn't kind of settle, just because it has been more and more humid every year in terms of the summers?
Well, the insulation is, if it's spray foam,
Yeah.
it is a barrier in itself.
But it seems like it's keeping it in. This is also probably maybe just more of a personal thing about my house. But just the idea of, like, is there a way for, like, fans during the summer to be able to pull moisture out so that we don't have mold or anything else in?
The moisture more than likely is not coming through the walls, although some of it could.
Yeah.
It's probably coming through the basement.
Okay.
And I don't know what your basement is. Do you have a floor?
It's dirt, but we can talk about this later, but just wondering if that is anything we have to worry about in.
Well, if there's not a vapor barrier on the floor, you should put one on it.
Okay.
Because that, like I said, what's happening, and I won't bore you with details, but a little bit of physics is in order here. The stack effect happens in a building, and stack effect is basically a vacuum. The taller the building, the more effect happens. And what happens, air comes in down low, in any place it comes in the basement, and it leaves through openings in your attic. And with it, it takes moisture.
Right.
Coming from, more than likely coming from the basement, and bringing it up into your attic or wherever. So part of a good insulating package provides a vapor barrier on the floor to stop the moisture from moving up.
Okay.
That's not the case here. We have a concrete floor, and there really isn't much that we can do, and this site is not particularly wet, so moisture movement through the building we saw no sign of significant moisture movement. So we didn't address a vapor barrier. Any other questions pertaining to that? And as you can see, Eric Solsa is one of the contractors that I worked with extensively in my career as a building analyst. And he has come up with a proposal there to do it with a couple different approaches. And he's also, I asked him to bid on a really important aspect of something that's been needed to be done in this building for a while now, and that is the painting of the exterior. And the main reason we're interested in that is because there is significant air leakage in every window around here. You can walk around this building and you can see gaps anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch that are just allowing the air to get right into the building. So he's proposed to caulk it as part of his air sealing package. And I asked him after the fact if he's willing, if he was to caulk it, would he paint it? And he said he would, and he would give a price for that. It's not included in the document that you have there in front of you. But he is willing to provide that work.
Something, this financial outlay though, we would have to do put a proposal out there, request.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you,
And the energy committee, I've had extensive, I've worked in municipal water, wastewater, and I did bidding and the whole 9 yards. We'd be willing to help you with finding contractors, coming up with bid documents, and, you know, because we know that the lay people, it gets a little dicey. But your energy committee is willing to work with you to help make this thing happen. Just keep that in mind. And now the HVAC, or the mechanical aspects of the building, once we get it tightened up, then the next need is to either replace or do a different process for the way this building is heated. And what we're suggesting is that the office space down on this first floor be provided with a number of mini splits, 3 mini splits, one for this office, one for the fire district office, and one for Julie's office, that should be able to handle the heating and cooling, which is the beauty of mini splits, is they do both. So that would be the first floor, and you have, what I sent you have prices for that. Did Bill Lozen gave an estimate?
Yeah.
Okay, you got some preliminary pricing there. Now upstairs is a different creature altogether, and it's a little bit beyond the scope of our knowledge. And we are suggesting that a mechanical engineer evaluate what is the sensible approach to that. Keep in mind that according to Bill Lozen, who gave the estimate for the heat pumps, the existing heating plant is on its last legs, as is a lot of the switchgear up in the stage. So it's a good time. I mean, it needs to be replaced, and maybe it makes sense to switch out completely and go to heat pumps. But good evening. So we're just talking about heat pumps.
Oh,
For a change.
for a change.
So,
what is the life expectancy of, like, stuff on the second floor? Because there wasn't too many years ago that
I can't answer that
stuff
question.
was
I don't know.
all redone.
I don't know the history of it. I'm just going based on what Rosen recommended. But that's the other beauty of getting a professional involved in it. He may say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this, so you need to switch this out or something, as opposed to changing the whole thing out. So, but none of the board members felt comfortable in designing a system for it. The heat pumps are a totally different creature. They're standalone. I have my own heat pump, I know how they work. I used to help Green Mountain Power with their heat pump rental program, so I'm pretty versed as to what heat pumps are capable of doing, and I'm sure they'll be able to heat the space efficiently. David, you want to take over the funding and the thing?
Sure thing.
Are there any, before David's going to talk about the three different options that you had before you there? But before, does anyone have any questions on anything that I said related to mechanical?
Well, the emergency generator. Is that after what you guys are gonna talk about right now, or?
Yeah.
It's part of
It's
this
part of
packet.
it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
talk.
shut up.
David.
I think we already have this.
Oh, did you already get one?
Yeah, we already got that one.
Yeah, we already have this.
Great. Well, if you've read through it, basically the emergency generator was suggested to the Energy Committee by some members of the Planning Commission that say that this building was supposed to be used by FEMA as the emergency response center. The only unfortunate thing is that an emergency generator would have to be fueled by propane, and both the generator and the propane tank need to be outside, and there's not sufficient space on the property of Town Hall to have the generator, a sufficiently large propane tank, and the safety barriers to prevent them from being damaged. So there's just no way to do it unless the town was to expand the footprint of the building by buying some land. Personally, I look at that and I kind of go, can't you use the elementary school as the emergency response center? You have one floor and plenty of parking. And
I think you guys maybe are out of touch with some other stuff that has gone on here, because through, it
Jim
wasn't
Bagnell on that.
Jim Bagnell, our emergency management director, had applied for a grant to install.
yeah, we're well aware of that. The problem is that to install it on the footprint here, in consulting with an architect, it has to be installed outside, and there's not sufficient space for the generator and the sufficiently large
They're not
propane.
looking at doing a propane generator, they're looking at doing a diesel generator where the fuel tank is basically right underneath.
Self-contained unit.
It's a self-contained unit, so.
Yeah, we had a thing that was spec'd by Robbie Stubbins. So if there's another generator that would work and you have space to put it, then
Well, you made the comment, that, sorry to interrupt you, but did you say that it was mandatory to have a propane? Did you?
no.
I didn't think so.
No, but I mean, that's what Robbie Stubbins spec'd.
Okay.
Propane instead of anything else for a source. Obviously, electricity wouldn't work, and if you had fuel, oil that could do it, then that could work. So if you've had this document, all it does is relate to you the things that we've viewed as being significant to help the building. The three main projects: weatherization, including insulation of the basement, air sealing windows and doors, and then while doing that, painting the exterior windows, renovation of the HVAC system for the first floor, and then renovation of the HVAC system for the second floor. We identified three sources of funding: the Town Hall Building Fund, the ARPA money currently held by Wallingford to disperse, and then the MERP money, which comes from the state. And we wanted to make you aware of the fact that there are some pluses and minuses to that. If you look in the MERP category, one of the pluses is that its money specifically is targeted to town facilities for energy resilience. One of the minuses is that they have something called the Municipal Energy Burden Ranking, which is an equation of the amount of money spent with tax money on energy compared to population, and they do it regionally. And in this region, there is high moderate, and low. And the people who are in high demand include 9 other municipalities, including West Rutland, Pownell, I've got the list here somewhere, but Wallingford is rated as moderate, which means that diminishes our chance to get any funding from this funding source. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but you're rolling the dice. The other aspect of it is that you look at the timeline, they are extending, the applications are open until the spring of 2023. They will complete the assessments of the projects by January of 2024. They will award the grants by December of 2024, and then there's 4 years for the projects to be completed. So it could be 2 years before we know whether we have that or not. As far as the projects that we proposed for Town Hall, when I came in, you were asking about the HVAC system for the second floor. Bill Lawson, I believe, installed that, but it's his opinion that the hot oil-fired boiler and the Lennox air conditioner are at the end of their useful life. It means they can fail anytime. So it could fail in 2 months, could fail in 2 years. It doesn't get used a lot, but you just don't know when it's gonna crap out on the town. And if we're waiting for 3 years to get funding for the state for that, that kind of creates an issue. Because if it dies, and we're banking on the state money, then all of a sudden, you either can't use the space or you've got to come up with emergency funding for it. It includes the estimates for the weatherization of the town hall, $32,300. These quotes are from October of 2022. And the company that spec'd is Solsa Building and Energy Solutions. They represented that it would be a good opportunity to paint the exterior windows since they would already have equipment on hand to do the air sealing and caulking of the windows. I don't know how much it would save in terms of getting that bid out, but it's got to be substantial, I would think, rather than having it done at a separate time. Bill Lawson and the members of the committee who have experience with HVAC stuff feel very comfortable with taking care of putting heat pumps on the first floor. The engineering is easy to do, would provide good cost benefit, and drastically increase the comfort for the town employees. So that's basically what we've got for you.
If we didn't do for the MERP funding, like, is there one project that if we could wait, that we could actually like try to apply for it, and then like saying like the air conditioning upstairs, if we know that it's on its last legs, that's a kind of not good use of that funding. So is there, of the 3 major projects, which is the one you think we could try first with the MERP versus dumping into building fund or ARPA stuff?
Well, I think I hate to say this, but the insulation could actually be the last. It's not the order that you like to do things, but considering the circumstance, I think in this case, it would, because of the timeline, I think the insulation and air sealing, but then we don't get the outside windows painted, which is something that I know, 3 years into it now, trying to get it going.
Right.
But you could break out, we could do the insulation in sections. Do some now and some later. There's a multitude of, because it's 3 pots of money, there's a lot of ways that we could dice it up.
Right.
Ideally, we talked a lot about splitting, some kind of split between ARPA and the building fund, providing the whole project right there. You've got 2 pots of money conceivably that could cover all your expenses. without even considering the new program.
Right.
Personally, I'm reluctant to even consider the MERP because
Right.
I don't know about their restrictions, but this generator grant, I mean, we've got people questioning now, how many penetrations are we gonna put through the building? Because it's a historical building, to just run a power line into the building from a generator, and, I mean, are they gonna turn around, if we try to do heat pumps, are they gonna turn around and tell us, well, you can't drill a hose to the side of the building or something? I mean, I just,
But there's gotta be some way.
personally, I don't wanna get involved with these people anymore.
Well, the building fund would eliminate those problems.
Yeah, ARPA, I mean, you guys have put all this before the ARPA committee already, right?
Correct, yes,
So
yes.
I think between the two of them, we can fund stuff without having to be dictated by the state or,
In terms of the MERP funding, I think there are other opportunities for town projects that are not related to town hall, such as the fire station, which could stand with considerable amount of insulation and energy efficiency work in terms of,
I think you guys have been told this a bunch of times already. You keep bringing up the fire station. The town doesn't own the fire station. The fire district doesn't own the fire station. The railroad owns the fire
Right.
station. And I know the fire district in the past has tried to do some insulation projects and stuff, and they got told no by the railroad, so.
okay?
But just for your information, I mean, so. Let's
We didn't
just
propose
stay
that.
focused on town stuff.
Yeah, well, and, I mean, we've had this discussion, within our committee, and it was well decided that we shouldn't do anything with either the town garage or the fire station, because it's just not worth it, because of the hoops.
I mean, if you wanted to try to do something with the fire station, you really need to go back to the Prudential Committee, but, I mean, I know in the past, they have tried to do stuff. My wife was secretary treasurer for a lot of years, and the railroad just flat out refused, so.
We will never say another word about those two facilities.
Are there any other town facilities that need work that could be used money from MERP? Are there any other town facilities that need energy work?
Maybe the beach.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like being able to make sure the pipes are well insulated and those rooms are well, I mean, even just for concession workers and everything, having that better insulated is gonna make it cooler for them in the summer. Not that we need to have a actual mini split or anything else like that, but just, that could be something with their renovations that they're proposing.
Yeah, I think you'd have to look at that. I mean,
It'd be a completely separate, yeah.
the building gets closed up every fall and the water is all drained out of it, and
Right.
so putting heating in there is,
Well, no, not even putting heating, but just putting either more insulation or just something passive that doesn't actually have to have maintenance, it just gets done once.
Is it hot in there now?
It isn't,
I don't,
You have windows, you just open the windows?
you know,
yeah. I was just thinking of just the idea of anything that we could do.
I don't know, I'd have to think about that. I mean,
The nice thing about the MERP money is that the state will have engineers, contracting developers, they will take care of everything. They'll decide the scope of the project, they'll do the bidding, they'll hire the contractors, they will do the construction, supervision, and tidy up at the end. You know, we just dust our hands off and they do the whole shebang, so.
Right.
If there's something that the town owns that needs work, that could benefit from that, you know, run it up the flagpole, see if they salute.
well, I know, I had a discussion with Bill Wilson during the week there, and one of the things really felt we needed to act on fairly quickly is the boiler downstairs.
Which that controls the heat for all the offices on the first floor.
Well, the entire building.
Yeah. Oh, so also upstairs? Okay.
Well, just to add something that, years ago, I asked Steve Spatz, who was a building performance contractor and now works for Efficiency Vermont, to come and to give me his thoughts on what to do with that heating plant upstairs. And he proposed something that's relatively new. It's a heat pump technology, but what it does is it utilizes the heat pump to get the heat out of the air, but it then transfers that heat to a hydronic system. So in other words, it's a heat pump, what do they call it, air to water system.
Okay.
And that is something that he was really high on, not literally high. But you gotta take in mind that Efficiency Vermont people are always pushing cutting edge stuff.
Right.
And I don't know enough about the system. I know in principle how they work, but I don't know about their performance. But it is an option to eliminating an oil furnace. And that is something that if you did hire a mechanical engineer, he could consider that as an option versus replacing in kind. Just a thought.
Would that be then like that, like hot water going through the floors and doing radiant heat going up, or would it actually be local radiators?
It would be using the existing infrastructure that's here.
Okay,
All the
cool.
piping and everything would stay in place.
Right.
It's just the boiler would be replaced with a heat pump.
Okay.
And it would be used in conjunction with the heat pumps that would be installed for the AC for here. And you'd have two separate thermostat settings where you'd have the ones that are the mini splits for the offices at a certain temperature, and then the one that is for the boiler at a different temperature, so that if it got too cold in here, that one would kick in and in essence work as a backup.
Realistically, I don't think you can consider getting rid of a boiler with heat pumps. Even with the current technology, they're only good to like 13 below where they generate heat. At that, you get a night where it's 20, 25 below.
No, for sure. Yeah.
They become boat anchors basically. So
Yeah, well, you're
you
absolutely.
really need a boiler, in my opinion.
When I knew I was going to be working with heat pumps, I wanted to get one so that I felt comfortable selling them. Not selling them, but, I wanted to feel comfortable that these things work. And when I heard that they produce heat at 20 below zero, I wanted to see that. And I proved that it can, but what I've subsequently learned is it spends a lot more time defrosting when it's cold like that. And guess what happens when it's defrosting? No heat's coming in. Nothing's happening at all. You're just defrosting. It's like a refrigerator, you're defrosting. But then once it's defrosted and goes into the heating cycle, it will heat it up. But that's the downside, is you've got that increment of time when you have no heat. So practicality is you need a belt and suspenders. You need something to back up your heat pumps, unfortunately.
So would it make sense to put your heat pumps here, replace the boiler with a boiler with the intention that it's gonna be as backup for upstairs and here when the heat pumps don't work?
That's a
And
safe,
not do anything upstairs as far as, an alternative heat? Use the new boiler for the upstairs when needed?
that's definitely a logical option, definitely. Yeah, just replace the boiler.
Yeah, because the new ones now are half the size, I don't know what's down here, but to do the
Yeah.
same thing and
You
that.
gotta do something, yeah, and, That's probably what a mechanical engineer would say. I don't know. I'm
Right.
just guessing, but that's
Well,
a logical approach.
The only reason I brought it up is because if you have a heat pump that's not real efficient down at 20 below zero, and we get a couple nights at 20 below zero, it would be nice to have the furnace to pick up the extra.
Sure.
And if you could just replace the boiler and keep the upstairs exactly the way it is now, with just a new boiler, then that might be a smart, money efficient way to.
Well, and the other side to that coin is now that boiler's got a lot of help with the heat pumps here.
Right.
Right, so
Because you
less
can
load
keep
on
those
it.
things running, 24 hours, and they're not expensive to run. And you just put a 5 or 6 degree differential on your thermostat for your boiler.
Right.
Let the heat pumps do the lion's share of the work, and when they don't work, let the hydronic system take over.
So I think maybe for this, to kind of wrap this up or table this for tonight, maybe we should, if it's the consensus of the board, is to work on doing an RFP for a boiler, replace the boiler and circulators downstairs.
I'd do that and do everything that they proposed. Do one lump for everything. Or split it up into different pieces, But we might as well do the whole thing at once. Then we can get an idea of what it's gonna cost us and.
Personally, I think we should do the boiler and then look at the heat pumps as another chunk further down the road here. I mean, I'd like to see what ARPA has made for recommendations and allotments for funds to do this.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it.
Right.
But,
I mean, either way, we gotta put it out for 3 bids, so.
Yeah, I guess the issue, like if we just if we do the work now in terms of the RFPs, then we can decide whatever order we want to do it in, whatever funds are available to us. And I feel like it makes more sense to have, especially if you guys are willing to jump in on this, than to get those RFPs started for everything. And then we don't have to worry about coming back and talking about it again. We just get it started. And then we don't have to move forward with anything we don't feel ready to move forward with because of funding.
One thing that we would have to add to that would be the painting,
Right.
which doesn't show up anywhere on the bottom line there yet.
Right.
But I can ask Eric to revise this.
the other thing is we'd like to get all of the trim in the building painted, not just
The window frames.
the window frames. We
All
want,
the trim. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll
I mean,
ask.
if they're up there anyways with the scout, lift or whatever they need.
Might send that out anyway.
Yeah, I'm suspecting that he would sub that out to a painting contractor. So
Right.
I'll ask him to revise his estimate to include that, all the woodwork on the exterior.
So then consensus we need for asking the Energy Committee to start the RFP process. I'm good with that.
that's good with that?
Did I just get myself all by over?
It's not eight, it's not the first time.
Well, you did ask what the next step was, right?
That's
There you
what
go.
we're here.
And you did very, very boisterously just offer, we are ready to go for this, so.
Yeah, well, it's a lot. I mean, working with contractors can be trying,
Right.
particularly in this environment. Just to get a contractor to answer the phone, good luck.
Two
Well,
full painting RFPs, not a single.
Yeah, we didn't get a single person to show up or bid, so.
Well, let's hope we do better this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a gentleman that's gonna inspect the roof for the spring for us, and he had offered to do painting too. but-
Yeah, we do have a couple names of painting,
You gotta get 3 bids anyway, all right? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
So, they don't need anything else from us?
I guess not.
Alrighty.
those heat pumps, put those heat pump prices,
What's that?
put those heat pump prices together, will you?
Oh, we got those already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
now remembering this right, but it seemed like Bill verbally gave us a lot lower prices the other day than what he's got written here. We'll see what happens anyway.
Working on your tan.
Well, if they-
2 weeks before.
October.
I just got home.
Might have come down just because of the price.
I come home to relax.
All prices change when you bid something.
Thanks, Dan.
Firewood sometime?
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of it in the meadow just south of here.
Okay, great.
And just, when it dries up, so we can get it there.
So, Elfin Lake hourly lifeguard rate. This, Ari has accepted the position.
Oh, great.
What are we gonna pay him an hour?
Does he have experienced lifeguarding, or is this gonna be his first time?
This is his first time, but he has extensive.
Oh, he's the swimmer, he's the swim meet
Yes.
guy, okay.
And out at many camps.
Okay, cool. And then what did we pay? We did like 15, 10 or something like that for lifeguard last year?
No, it was like 13.
Oh, 13.
Yeah. But we have the poster out that says up to 16. If you wanted to pay.
Based on experience though.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, just to keep him, I would say 15, just because he doesn't have direct lifeguard experience, 'cause he hasn't done it before, but he does show himself to be a strong swimmer, being that he's in, and also relationships in terms of kids and everything else, being a counselor. So I would say 15.
I think, wasn't that about what we were talking about before too, with the comparison of
Right,
the other one was 15?
Yes.
And then that gives a goal to return back?
right.
Yeah.
And we get a little bump
Yeah.
next time.
Need a motion, or do we wanna do it by consensus?
Consensus is fine.
Consensus, 15.
So he agreed without knowing the comp, his pay?
What's that?
He agreed without knowing his,
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Well, in that case, how about 5? Well,
Somebody that
Can we,
wants,
can we do it as an internship?
that's another thing,
Yeah.
he just took it
that's an
without.
indication that somebody wants the job.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Somebody should have a talk with him.
Next time.
That's fine, make sure.
he'll
Not with
learn.
us, not with us.
Yes, exactly.
He'll learn eventually. When you apply for jobs, you tell them how much you want.
We can wait until it gets closer to the, see if we get another lifeguard. Or who we get for, a camp counselor to figure out when you want coverage. I mean, if we don't have a lifeguard, if we don't have a counselor with lifeguard, we're gonna need REB.
Monday through
Friday.
Okay.
But if we get one, maybe we get Wednesday, like you were talking Wednesday through Sunday or something, so,
Would be nice if
yeah,
we had the coverage on a week.
right.
recreation activity event release form. So VLCT has recommended the town require certificates of insurance with the town named as an additional insured from outside organizations, such as the Rutland County Little League, to operate programs at municipal facilities. And this is something we already do. They further recommended the town's recreation committee collect releases from participants engaged in rec programs such as art classes, nature walks, and drop-in sports. Sandy has drafted a generic release form. I thought served the purpose quite well, I thought.
And what, like, I'm trying to think of, like, what other than maybe the winter, like when the Conservation Committee does the winter fun day. Like that's the only one I could think of that would be possibly for releases, right?
For,
Well,
they, part of it, I mean,
they're trying to develop a lot of different programs, and it sounds like,
No, I'm saying just right now in terms of not like in the future, like right now, what is something that actually could be that? Because we don't really have a lot of,
I don't think there's, I don't even think the drop-in.
well, that was interesting, Carolyn, because Shannon and I were exchanging emails asking these questions, and she cited an art class, the drop-in sports, and things like that. So when I sent that email to VLCT, they
Okay.
said yes, releases for all, which makes it challenging, you know, a basketball drop-in on Thursday, who's gonna collect those, an art class?
Yeah.
Nature walks was the third one.
I mean, could you even have it as a blanket sign, like you come in like on the top, I release, and then everybody below signs it.
Right.
So like, and then it's also attendance, you know, who's there for other reasons too.
or even if we did like online, like sign us for
Online
any of those,
registration.
you just have it right there as a checkbox.
You know, other type of activities, it's just more of a blanket, when you're there, you sign in, and on the top it's saying, I agree to.
But if somebody stops in to play basketball on a Thursday night, group of people, who's gonna be in charge
Well,
of
that's-
the sign-in, and who's going to deliver it back to us, and who's gonna keep it wet and dry, or
Well, I think it
dry
depends.
and,
Is
you
it
know.
an organized, or is it? Because if you're saying drop-in, does that mean anytime you use the basketball courts?
Which I feel like we could be covered by
that's
just
what's
having a
different.
sign saying like anybody using this facility recognizes that
I,
yada yada yada.
well, I
yeah, I
think
think
we
there's
had
a
that
difference
already there.
between, right. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
use
there's a
it at your
difference
own
between,
risk,
is
right?
it
Yeah.
something that Justin is going to get out and have get, you know, Gary, and Phil, and everybody make a team, then yes, you have to sign a release versus,
Right.
hey, everybody just agrees. I think there's a difference if you say drop-in versus a, you know, an organized drop-in more, where you kind of sign up and are a part of it.
And that's also what we could just engineer it to be, that for those things, we have a system in place, or the rec committee has a system in place when these events are going to take place. They're going to have a roster, they're going to have all that stuff.
Yeah, I think even though they stated drop-in, I think they're thinking of something that the town has organized.
Exactly,
Right,
I think
right.
so too. And it's like even the lake, that's why that person, the thing needs to take everybody's name, not just the
Right.
non-passes.
Oh, so flag football is another one that we did, when Justin was asking.
Right, that's
we
an
did-
organized-
Yeah, so I
Right,
was trying to think of
Yeah.
what we did have. We had line dancing upstairs, we had releases for that. Flag football, we had releases for that. But I think, like, even exchanging emails with Shannon, it has to be some kind of common sense. I mean, do we need releases for an art class? Things like that, so. I mean, is this release gonna be like, do we leave it up to the rec committee who's running the programs, to which ones that?
I think anything that's advertised by the town, anything that is under the auspices of being a town activity, and there is some kind of sign-up process, should have this. And I think that's an easy thing to do. But if it is that drop-in, like Thursdays, people can come and do this,
But I'm thinking even like the winter thing,
the fun day, yeah.
that really, would that be?
But that's a special event that you could have a
Well,
sign
I'm
saying.
thinking of like activities that other areas do. Like come alive outside, when you go here, you don't sign up, you don't sign a waiver. And it's being put on, or being put on rec. If it's those mass big groups, you're not signing anything.
But then they probably have special insurance though
But
that
that's
day
what I'm
saying that,
wondering.
yeah. Because it's a mass event, like the Wallingford Day would be a special event kind of thing.
So.
Because we're not gonna, everybody's
so that would
doing
be
the,
good funding too,
yeah,
because you can't control who's walking in and out, because it's an in and out process all day.
I think what they're looking for in this case, in those cases though, is
Your
the people,
groups and your teams.
Well, the people that are working it for the town,
Volunteers.
the volunteers, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause isn't that even kind of what it,
I think that's what they're looking for in those
the
instances.
participant volunteer following. I think it's getting made too complicated.
But I mean, something like the fun day, I mean, that's a steep hill. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we got something saying, like, either as a special event kind of insurance, like what we would ever do for Wallingford Day, because but even that, they say we don't have to do anything special for it, right? VLCT did if we brought it under
They're saying the volunteers that are working it.
So just the volunteers.
but that's
not the
again,
attendees.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
attendees that are the tough thing, but I think if we get volunteers, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, then that could be worked if we start to really push the idea of having those, like, if you're on a committee, you sign something like the rec committee where you have, this is the purpose of this committee, this is what the laid out acceptable parts of it are. Part of that could also be a release saying if you're running or as you're on this committee, if you're doing functions on that, you then release your liability.
I think this generic form that Sandy has drafted
Right.
would work fine for any of those kind of instances, and I think basically she's just looking for our approval on this form.
That seems fine.
Then I'm good. I thought we were thinking of the ins and outs of where it's going, because my brain always goes there. Yeah, I know.
It doesn't hurt to discuss it, so.
No, it doesn't, but I think that release works fine. I think it's the policy then, of when we give this out, and I think it
Yeah.
is anytime somebody jumps onto a committee that is going to have some kind of outward-facing interaction with the community. Does that make sense, Sandy?
So the volunteers were, I think when VLCT said the volunteers, it was like the non-rec volunteers for Wallingford Day. So if
Right.
you had like your
Right. Nothing that's
Wallingford
not
Day
a
committee, they would be covered because they're part of, a town group. But the volunteers who may be helping set up and stuff who are not a part of the rec committees or Wallingford Day should sign a release.
That makes sense.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. So the volunteers who are not necessarily committee members should sign releases.
Yeah.
But are you, because not to go too far in the weeds, do you want, like, we advertise for an art program or a nature walk? Like art, like have somebody come in and do a painting program? We want signups to sign the release.
I think if it's an organized thing that has a certain capacity to it, then that's an easy time when we just send that either out as an email or they sign it when they get there, they sign in, and then on the top, like what you
Just
said.
for, other reasons than,
But if it's an event where we can't control the ins and outs, there's different times that people are coming in. Then I don't, like, even like a green up day kind of thing, I don't think, the volunteers, yes, but not the,
People.
anybody who's participating.
yeah. Got it. On here you also have the example of what's on the summer rec program. Can I make a suggestion on updating my child will not attend if sick from COVID to be more what the practices are currently? Because it says like exposed to someone, like that has gone away now with pretty much everything.
So make it more of a confirmed
If you,
case.
signs, symptoms, signs, symptoms, such and such as this. Fever, diarrhea, Because this is CDC doesn't do any of this anymore.
Right, so it's not enforceable anymore, especially with it being ended.
And also just make it blunt. Your kid's got a fever, keep him home.
Okay.
I was gonna say, you
Not
could
just
Yeah.
blanket sick.
Yeah, just go with kind of school rules.
Yes.
If you have, or any kind of stomach issue within, you have to wait 24 hours to wait, yeah.
You could just take all the COVID stuff off and.
Right.
My child will not attend if sick.
Right, and define what sick means.
Yeah, so that would be fever, that would be gastrointestinal
Yeah.
trouble, or, Anything communicable.
The generator VEM grant. Would you like to speak to this, Sandy?
So, as you know, this grant was approved a long time ago, months and months and months ago, but we've been holding off on a final approval from FEMA, and we were supposed to get it at the end of February, and we didn't get it, and kept emailing back and forth in March. Jim Bagnell's been emailing back and forth. Now it's 2 months after, almost 2 months after we were supposed to get that final approval. We got another email from VEM that says FEMA's gonna do one more approval, and at least one tribe has to approve the generator. And then they asked for additional, after that, they sent another email asking for additional sketches and placement of the generator.
Where were you
And I
gonna,
asked Jim to hold off. I said, why don't you not create more sketches? Why don't I talk to the select board first before, to see if we want to pursue this grant? Because at this point, I think the timing is impossible. If, to purchase the generator size that is in the grant,
Right.
it's not gonna come in, because it would need to be ordered by September, delivered by October, and it's not gonna happen. I mean, I think Robbie Stubbins, even Jeff Duchesne, I think there's a real scarcity of that size generator. So. I think, Mark, you know that too, right?
He can get them, but his cost for them and getting it over here and getting it installed would be way more than what your estimates were already, so he backed away. Question I have is, with the proposed heat pumps going in, energy as efficient as they are, still require additional electricity to operate them. Do we need to increase the size? That's gonna have to be a question for the electrician. Do we need to increase the size of the generator to meet the needs of the heat pumps?
Heat pumps don't use anything.
Well, they're 220 feet, mine draws 10 amps.
I don't have 220 feet on mine.
Well, it's more efficient to run a 220 feet to them. And it's actually, I think I got it fed with a 20 amp breaker, so.
my understanding is they've sized the generator for the possibility at this point of heat pumps
Okay.
being installed. But my own thought is that we just abandon this grant and
Well, what would happen if we self-funded the generator ourselves, kept applying for the grant? If we get it, we get it. If we don't get it, we don't get it.
I mean,
Can we,
but they keep asking for more and more information, and, I mean, it's just, some of this stuff, they've asked the same thing 3 times now. Sandy and Jim have sent them information. The next time they make an inquiry on where the status of the generator is, they get requested we need this information, and it's stuff they've sent. I just,
some of this stuff was sent with the
And I mean
original
it-
application.
and-
last fall.
yeah, I know.
and that comment about a tribe needs to approve where we're gonna drill a hole through the building. I mean, that's just going too far as far as I'm concerned.
And I did hear from Rutland Regional Planning that we're not the only town very frustrated with this Vermont Emergency Management Grant. So.
Right.
It just seems to be, I mean, I know some of it's out of their hands, and some of it's to do with federal.
But the plan is for us to put the generator in regardless, correct? Maybe? I mean, well,
That was the thought originally. I mean,
I don't think we should go for a smaller one when we know that this is the one that's going to work with anything that we might be doing in the future. Because I think that's just shooting ourselves in the leg and.
no, you need to do the whole building if you're gonna do any of it.
Right, but just they're saying like if we do a slightly smaller one, but that just, it doesn't, and especially if we're wanting this to be a real emergency
Right.
location, then that doesn't sound right.
10 years ago, when they were thinking about making the school, the
Yeah,
emergency thing, they had that all planned. This has been kicked down the road so long, 10 years at least it's been kicked down. I think it's a shame that Wallingford doesn't have a place where if it's a power outage, old people can't go and get cooled off or get whatever they need or something. It's a really shame that a community would have that, but I understand that trying to get paid for a lot of money from the state, can keep that from happening if you gotta jump through those hoops, but at some point in time, Wallingford's gonna have to jump through those hoops. We can't just keep kicking it down the road.
Well, that's what I was saying, if we installed it ourselves, paid for it ourselves, and continued to put up with the,
Right, so
for the,
we can't purchase it, right? We can't purchase it. The grant, it needs to not have happened for the grant to pay.
Okay, so we have, if we wanna do this, we have to wait. If we
Right.
want to do it ourselves, then it's on us.
Well-
It's an on-off situation.
Well, there's an ARPA request for
No, right,
funds to do it anyway.
right, no, and when I say do it, us doing it, that includes the ARPA funds.
And
Not from
the
town.
grant pays 50%. I mean, it would have been a.
It still would have been some money coming from ARPA.
Yeah, so it's like a
Okay.
$44,000 system, the grant would have paid 22. And we also have building fund money if,
I don't see you've got anything to lose by at least continuing to kick it down the road, yeah. You may be asking for more information, but it's just information, right? I mean, to just throw it out and say, I don't wanna get involved in this grant because they've asked us for something else. Stay on it, you might get something from them, rather than get nothing.
I mean, they say the purchase, can we at least start the process of it coming, like, could we do a deposit? Or is it as soon as money has changed hands from us to whoever is going to do the work, then we're done with
The
it?
grant goes away.
we'd have to go out to like RFP because it's in the 40s. So we could
Right.
start an RFP if you wanted. But I think what Jim and I are hearing is that there's not gonna be a generator that size that we can physically get delivered before the grant would be due. So
Okay,
even if the grant were to come, so I understand what you're saying, but if the grant, you know, depending on when this final review, and we're allowed to start,
They won't grandfather you any time or anything.
we just
No.
don't
At
feel
that point
like
in time, you say, well, we've ordered it, it's not here, we can't get it, well, they just gonna cut you that.
They've specifically said that all invoices have to be in by the 1st of October. And they've also specifically said, do not make any purchases until this grant, you've got approval of this grant.
okay.
How would you get an invoice, why would you have an invoice if you didn't have approval of the grant? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the grant has been approved, that's what's frustrating. We have a signed grant agreement, they've signed it for my emergency, both sides have signed it, but we're not allowed to move forward until FEMA and this final review again. And then just Monday, they've now asked for more sketches.
Oh, I understand.
Somebody-
Word bureaucracy.
Somebody at FEMA has decided they need more sketches, so.
To me, we should just go ahead on with the ARPA money and forget this grant.
I almost want to say, like, we do one
Because we
more
can't-
round of this.
We can't realistically,
but if we
we
do,
can't really realistically meet the expectations of or the requirements of the grants.
well,
At this
it's
point in
kind of
time.
like, I think that's what they're hoping for, that people will drop out, they don't have to pay us, give us the money.
So who's gonna be the nail in the shoe, kind of?
Well, that's it, it's who's gonna be the
Last man
most
standing.
stubborn.
Yeah.
But how about if we sent the original pack, they're asking for more drawings, correct?
They're asking for additional sketches with the placement of the,
And we already sent those to them, correct?
not these additional sketches, these are new drawings that they want.
Okay. And Jim's doing this on spec for us, or he's doing it at volunteer basis?
As a volunteer, because he's the
Volunteer.
emergency management
Right.
director.
Does it have to be professional sketches, or can it be a piece of paper and a pencil?
No, that's a good question.
If you just gotta draw, here's the outside of the building, and draw a square over here, and says, this is the location, and give it to them, you've fulfilled the requirement if they're asking for professional sketches.
And if they're asking for professional sketches, you gotta hire somebody to do that. If you hire somebody to do that, you don't qualify for the grant anymore.
So if they don't accept that, then look at it the other way. Maybe we don't want it.
My gut is saying that we're at the edge of whether or not this is going to be a viable thing for us. But I think because you have put a lot of effort into it and Jim has put into it, we say this is the last straw in terms of, we send the information we've already done, he does one more sketch, and then if that goes on, then we say, nah, we're done.
The email that we got Thursday says the sketch wasn't very clear. Is there more detail about the size? Height is what I couldn't find. A position of the generator and conduit. Is the generator being placed between two windows or in front of the window? And for the conduit, how large of a puncture will need to be in the window surrounding it? It has already been pierced a few times. I'm concerned about the impact of the structural integrity of the window frame. That was the last email, and I told Jim to hold off on any more sketches until we talked about it tonight. That was Thursday.
Why are we making another building penetration to install this generator?
Because your transfer switch is inside the building,
But why would it have to be?
because one of the historical requirements was we couldn't put the transfer switch outside the building. Initially, my son inspected out a weatherproof exterior transfer switch.
Right, that's what, yeah.
And they said, no, you can't do that. It's
Even if it sits right beside the generator.
Historical.
I gotta,
So to me, that's one of the questions that I have about putting heat pumps outside, is they're gonna come back and say, due to the historical nature of the building, we don't want you putting a bunch of modern HVAC systems sitting outside the building. I mean,
so they're saying that they'd rather have a hole through the building, large hole, 4-inch, at least a 4-inch hole, with pipe running through the building. And
but to me, that we can't get the generator within the time frame they're saying anyway, so why keep pursuing it any further?
Because they won't release the funds until September, and then we won't be able to get an invoice back before October. That's because it's not like if we did this and they're not going to release the funds in September. That's my confusion about it.
No, they'll release the funds, they could release the funds to us right now,
Right.
but we cannot get,
Right. So even if they did it in April, end of April, right now, they released it, we would still not be able to get an invoice before October.
no,
Okay.
Is that because there's nothing available to buy?
yeah. They're all like a year out.
kinda like a grader.
Yeah, about like a grade.
We're gonna go from Brazil to Canada.
I mean, I guess that was where I was getting kind of, my brain wasn't working, because I thought we were like, oh, we're getting them, we don't get the money until September no matter what, and then October, then that's too short. But if we're convinced that we are not going to be able to get it, then I'll switch mine around and then.
Do the people that are administrating these grants have any suggestion for the situation that you're in? By not being able to get them, it seems though this grant's not valid for anybody. If you can't get the generator, why are they offering a grant out there? I don't
Well,
understand.
the grant covers more than just generators. We're using it for generators, but I have to tell you, every single time I've emailed them asking for this final approval, I remind them that the deadline is October, like that we're already under the gun trying to get a generator here in time.
And you've mentioned that they aren't available, they're a year out anyway?
They said,
Doesn't matter.
sorry, but you can't do anything until this final approval. I think it's the state working with the federal government, and
No, that goes.
Would they allow us to core bore the building and stay out of that window? Because even if we don't do the grant, I could see where, I'm looking at a picture that I took from a friend of mine, and I didn't get a very good picture of over the window, but all of the existing pipes right now go over that soffit over the top of the window. And that's how they get in here. It's not a structural, so I don't think the window is gonna take any,
Right, it's already compromised because it's a window. There's nothing.
well, then, right, and it's the soffit over the top of the window is where those pipes go through.
Right.
So I don't think that there's any structural to the window, there's not gonna be any structural damage to the window.
Right, because the bricks are already doing the structural, like actually opening, keeping
Right,
it safe.
yes. And the window's not gonna fall out because it's a piece of plywood or a piece of wood up there. It's
Right,
not structural. But the question is, if they're asking about that, why couldn't we core bore, I know it's a deep core bore, but why couldn't we drill the building through the concrete foundation? And come into the building that way? Added a few, it's gonna add some more money to it, but I'm just looking at all
Yeah,
options.
I think that's probably not really our concern. It's gonna be whoever we award it to, but
Right.
Why don't they buy a portable generator? Once on a set of wheels, parked at the shop, comes up, when you need it, plug it in and turn it on.
I think
It'll be the
probably
same identical generator, except on wheels. They won't have to look at it, you won't have to deal with the board, all you'll have is a plug-in stuck on the side of the wall.
And that's a good point, because the only thing you'd have your
nothing.
hubble and a transfer switch.
But then it wouldn't be an emergency setup because somebody would have to be able to get to the town garage, get it hooked up, bring it over here, plug it in, versus
Why not?
this would be, a switch would just turn it on if it was.
Problem with the, whatever you wanna call the town people that have the board, put a plug-in out there so you can bring a portable one up. It'd take 5 minutes to bring it up from the shop. It's on wheels, it's gonna be the same generator, same fuel tank system.
I'll bet you.
Put the jack down, turn it on.
I bet you this has gotta be in place, so
Yeah, and
that's too easy.
I know. That cures everything, you don't have to worry about the looks of it sitting out there.
So to return to your question that you asked, one of the replies that they sent me, I asked them if it's possible for an extension, what happens if we can't, she wrote, "Hi Sandy, unfortunately there's no extension available due to the funding source restraints. However, if you have the option to order a different unit that it'd be available sooner, would be acceptable." So this is their deadline. You need to find out how to make it work. So I think she's saying that we could order something smaller if that would be, or whatever else would be available during this time period.
Or Mark was right. You make them jump through enough hoops, I'll say, never mind.
Well, yeah.
so it's everyone's pleasure. In my mind, we just pursue this through our own means and give up on this grant.
it sucks to throw money away.
Because they hate to throw away free money, but
Especially when we just went over all those costs.
Right.
But
Too bad we can't do 100% down payment.
Do you think
Is
it
it-
makes sense to going back and pursuing it with the elementary school again? Maybe,
But doing it over there?
with,
maybe
Could-
having, because it does seem like it makes more sense if there was an emergency and people needed to gather, that would be.
It's in that floodplain, that's why.
in the floodplain,
That all
you can't.
disappeared before. If it's Irene put the end to that, that's when it all came up again. And when the water was rushing down, comes around that corner back there out of that brook, and it comes down by the school, that's the part that said, well, you might be cutting off your source of your emergency. But you could invoice, can't you? Why couldn't you purchase this thing with an invoice without, you don't have to take delivery of it? I mean, I've done that before. I paid for stuff
Right.
up front, and then when it comes, and then that way you buy it from a person, they say, we can sell it to you for $40,000, you write the check, you pay him for it, he gives you the invoice, and he delivers it when it comes in. And then you'd be able to get, wouldn't you be able to get the funding from the state that way? Or from VEM?
I mean, the only thing we could do right now until we get the approval is we could draft an RFP and get, quotes. But we can't order anything, we can't pursue
You
a
did,
purchase.
these people told you they couldn't get these anymore, did they give you quotes? When
Yeah,
did
Jim
estimates.
Regula got.
they gave you quotes then?
He got like estimates that he included with the application. Well, we're not allowed to purchase, we can't pursue, we can't like,
But like if we do get the funds, because I guess the big question is, do we need to have it in hand for us to pay for it or not? Because if we get the funds and even if it's September, we get the funds, we fax over our check or do a wire transfer even just so that it's in there. Like that's my because that was the thing with the grader, we weren't paying for it until it came. But is that something we just do as a natural policy in town, or is that just something for a one-time emergency basis? We could do it for this.
So even if we ordered the generator now, it's not gonna be here in time to pay for it with the grant funds because it doesn't have to be installed?
Everything has to be wrapped up and
Has to be
included
done in October.
by the 1st of
And we'll never get
October.
the generator in
Okay.
time anyways.
So it states that it has to be installed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, that answers your question, Justin.
Before they release the funds, it's gotta be installed?
yeah, everything's gotta be wrapped up and completed. by
There's
the
no
1st of
way to
October.
get a generator, get it here.
When it's back ordered a year.
When it's back ordered a year, and we can't order it because they won't allow us to order
right,
it,
we
so.
can't order it. So
I
we're not
thought
allowed.
you said it was just, you need an invoice,
Yeah, that's what I was.
that's what I thought you said before.
Maybe I did, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's kind of a moot point.
Yeah. If we can't, yeah. Can we use the funds for something else? Or is it too late in the game, I'm guessing? Because we did the application.
The application was for the generator.
Well,
Could we
What about a portable generator?
put a generator down garage?
So I just
Follow?
pulled up one of the other emails, and it says, while you're waiting for this EHP final review, in large bold letters, do not order or purchase the items.
right.
So the only thing we could do now is to do an RFP, so we could select it and have it ready to go once this is approved.
But even then, it all depends on install date. So it's not like we can just pay it all outright. We have to have it installed in space. It has to be working before they'll buy October 1st or 31st or whatever. Yeah, that seems impossible. Even if it was here now.
And that's why we've been stressed about this whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, could you send one last email, Sandy, just clarifying that it has to be installed by that date? Because I think that's the only thing that would change my opinion.
Okay.
Is that okay? Everybody else, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
as one
Would
last
it-
clarifying before we do any other work on it?
The cell site's owned by AT&T, correct?
the what?
The cell site.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're gonna take advantage of this generator, correct?
Or do they have their own
No,
hookup?
they have
They have
their,
their own.
they have their own power system out there.
Well, I was... Two things. One is, might be worth seeing if they'll help with the generator in one shape of, one way or another, which is possible. And two is, if we could reconfigure their transfer switch to an automatic transfer switch, outdoor rated, nothing changes on the outside of the building, and we could reconfigure that and pipe it into out for the whole entire building out of one transfer switch. That way we don't have that second penetration through the building for that additional
But then that's that crazy thing of the lease, like when that guy wanted to buy the lease from us, it's that, like, we,
All expenses must be incurred by September 15th. These expenses must be paid no later than the end of the month following the deadline for incurrement. So everything needs to be paid in full by October 31st.
but that's still confusing because it doesn't,
It is. It doesn't-
that's really, because it doesn't mean, like,
It
if
is
we could
very-
pay in ahead.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point, just,
What they're saying is they don't have the money and they're trying to force you out of doing it.
Right.
That's what it amounts to.
Or for very small projects or very easy to do ones. I still
Well,
think.
let's
Yeah.
let Sandy send one more thing
And then
and
just stop
stop
it for
beating
now.
this horse to death.
Do we want to, so do you want Jim hold off on sketches?
Yeah, I don't think we do anything until we find out that last little bit, because otherwise it's pointless. Frustratingly pointless.
Okay.
It might be worth looking and, would the mobile one be worth it?
Me too.
I just don't know if.
Would
it
that work for the
Well, yeah.
requirements? Not for this, but for the,
well, if we're not gonna go for the grant,
Right.
it's whatever we decide to put in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
So,
well, but no, for the,
the emergency status.
yes, thank you.
but the emergency status was mainly for the emergency management grant. Now it's for, it may be for emergency management, but now it's for our needs, because we're paying for the whole thing up front.
But then it's also that, I guess legally, like, can we call it an emergency station if it doesn't meet certain criteria? Like, if we're touting it as, this is also another discussion for later, but like, if we're touting it as we now have, if in case of emergency, we have power backup for the town hall. If we claim that and then something happens where the truck gets hit on its way by a plow, like way from the town garage over to here, and that's my brain goes right to that. Like, is that then a violation because we told people they could come here and then they could sue us? I grew up in Westchester County, New York, guys. This is a way of life.
let it go, Justin, let it go.
I can't.
Let it go for a few minutes.
No, but I'm done. But that yeah.
Family Dollar tobacco license.
That's a good transition.
Yes.
Okay, do we want to approve a tobacco license for Family Dollar?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Sure.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Now back to the generator.
I think we're done.
I'm done.
Oh, another.
So the Wallingford Elementary Stormwater Operation and Maintenance Agreement. As I mentioned earlier, Tim Hart had agreed to, that any of the catch basins and manholes in the system located on the school property, they would maintain it.
Yay.
So, do you want to authorize me to sign the agreement?
Yes.
Right, Julie?
Night, Julie.
Saturday.
So by consensus,
Got it.
Yes, please.
Elfin Lake concession stand garage door. We have a estimate from Ski Door. They would repair the frame. Install a new door, weather strip it for $1,390.
So we need a second bid then?
Need two more.
I don't think, isn't it,
Pull up the trustee Purchasing
I think the
policy,
purchasing
check
policy
the
is
amounts.
over 5,000? I don't remember.
Okay.
It's sleeping. My computer's really up.
Don't blame it.
It's tired. Let me
Past
go
its
through
bedtime.
It had
Tired
enough,
listening to me.
had enough of listening to the generator.
Okay, so it's 13, so should endeavor 0 to 14.99 is to endeavor to find the most reasonable price. So we don't have to get a second one if you don't want.
We have endeavored.
We endeavor.
So this is a little door on the side of the,
The garage door.
The garage door.
Where all the
Garage
stuff
door.
is.
Yeah, the frame is actually come loose from the building.
the
on one-
casing.
Yeah, the casing on one side where the track and all that stuff is mounted to, so.
and it's a weird sized door.
It is a weird size door, he said.
6'6" by
Yeah.
7. I'm like, who would?
Yeah. It's one of those low,
Yeah, well, I could see the 7, but usually they're like 7 by 7 or 7 by 9. You know, very seldom you find a 6'6"
Right.
by 7.
How about an 8 by 8? I'm just trying to continue this conversation longer.
Really? I'm not even gonna go there.
Is there something you're dreading at home?
No, not at all. I want to go home. I want to have dinner.
Oh, that's what
brain.
you're, that's what you're waiting for. What drag us on?
do I have a motion to, approve for ski door to,
I'll make a motion to approve ski door for $1,390 and no cents.
Second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Select board comments and concerns.
Well, as we talked about.
Other business. I think everybody knows that Finch Turf delivered the wrong degree blower initially. And gave Sandy a heart attack when they sent the invoice for $2,000 more than what we had
Well, if they sent
purchased.
it and sent the correct invoice, that would've been awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
We have it in hand. It's ours now.
The select board included $100 in the FY '24 budget for the Nelson Tiff Scholarship. Sandy's asking, how do we want to proceed with an application? What do we want to establish for criteria?
We had talked about this initially when we just brought it up, right?
I mean, I think we talked about somebody in, either going into like fire or.
Law enforcement.
Civil service.
Or, yeah, or,
We also mentioned truck driving, but I think that might be harder to.
yeah, but I mean, we can even do,
I think,
like, one of the trades, I think you included trades in there too, if
Right.
that's what you wanted to, but, I mean,
I think it'd be easier to keep it more of the,
Civil service.
yeah, fire,
fire rescue,
yeah, police
So-
rescue.
First responders, basically.
okay. And do we want to put out like a mini application, and we'll apply through the town, you folks, for at least this first year, select somebody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to get our feet wet on, and it can
Right,
always,
okay,
we can always refine it next year.
right.
Right.
And finally, the Sky Blue Boys performed Wednesday night. How was the crowd? Good?
Very small.
Oh, small? Oh,
Thank God for the traffic.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think Rover did that well. They did such a good job on the bake sale too. It was just such a small, it was that first really sunny day.
yeah.
So these guys had been canceled twice because of snow. And then nobody shows up because it's sunny. It's like,
Right.
okay, only concerts when it's 50 and cloudy.
Poor guys. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Tori was supposed to be here, but she was sick. And Kate messaged saying how it was not going well.
I know, I felt bad for the bake sale, I felt bad for the
Mhm.
musicians, but something to do.
Right.
What do you do? No concerts in April next year.
You need a motion to adjourn? Is that okay, Joe?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, yes.
Very much so. I'll second that.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.